This is Optimal Living Daily, episode 2516, Understanding Anger. And Are You Always One Problem Away from Happiness? Both by Allison Carmen of AllisonCarmen.com and your very own personal narrator, Justin Malik, reading to you from some amazing blogs and books to help you optimize your life. Topics include personal development, productivity, and minimalism, mostly in an effort to make your and my day even just a little bit happier. Now let's get right to today's two posts as we optimize your life. Understanding Anger by Allison Carmen of AllisonCarmen.com. When a storm comes, it stays for some time and then it goes. An emotion is like that too. It comes and stays for a while and then it goes. However, just like a storm can cause damage, the emotion of anger can cause us to say and do things that create pain and turmoil for ourselves and the people we love. At first, anger may seem quite justified when someone hurts our feelings or disappoints us. Our spouse snaps at us after a long day at work, or our children are disrespectful or fail to listen. Our knee-jerk reaction to these behaviors is often to lash back with anger. However, our reactions often cause the situation to escalate, and then there is suffering on both sides. So how do we stop this cycle of anger and suffering in ourselves and our relationships? We know we shouldn't suppress the anger that arises when someone hurts our feelings, but maybe we can take a moment for ourselves and take care of our anger before we speak or react to the other person. How can we possibly do this in the midst of the emotional storm? We can do it if we're willing to acknowledge the anger when we feel it coming on and repeat the simple word of maybe. In this moment, we can contemplate that maybe there's another way to deal with this emotion of hurt and disappointment. Maybe we can just sit there and breathe and feel our breath. Maybe we can sit there and try to slow ourselves down and see what is really going on. All we are doing in this moment is offering ourselves another way to process this anger and deal with the situation. Sometimes this new way can even turn our anger into understanding about ourselves as well as the person that we love. As we cool the flames of our anger, we may realize that the person that just hurt us is suffering too. Maybe he or she is having difficulties at work or school. Maybe he or she is afraid or worried and doesn't know how to process his or her emotions. Maybe he or she allows their anger to grow because he or she doesn't know how to make it through the emotional storm and process the onslaught. If this is true, then if we don't help our loved one, who will? Our loved ones are still responsible for how they act towards us, but maybe our understanding of their suffering creates a dialogue and a new way for us to communicate. Instead of lashing out, we can offer them understanding and compassion and allow them the space to settle their own anger. This way, we can talk and hopefully resolve the situation in a more loving manner and over time, create a more stable and joyous home. Just maybe. Are You Always One Problem Away from Happiness? By Allison Carmen of AllisonCarmen.com. Quote, life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. Soren Kierkegaard. So many clients tell me that if only one particular thing would happen in their lives, they would be joyful and stress-free. A business owner tells me she just needs to increase her sales to make more money. A writer tells me he just needs to sell his screenplay. And a parent tells me she just needs to get her child into a good college. They all believe that if this one thing happens, they will have the key that opens the door on their peace and happiness. Yet when the business owner increases her sales, some of her expenses unexpectedly also increase, and there's no extra profit. The writer sells his screenplay, but so far the producers cannot raise the money to make the film. The woman's child goes to a good college, but now she worries her son won't find a good job when he graduates. So each of them continue to wait for his or her key to the door to happiness and success in the future when everything, fingers crossed, will finally work out. I think many of us walk around with a concrete image of what must happen for us to be content. Yet this way of thinking only serves to keep us in the illusion of the future and disappointed in the present. On some level, we believe that if we can just solve a few of our problems, then we will be happy and free of stress forever. But we forget that life keeps changing and offering us new opportunities and new challenges. What if by focusing on the one thing that will bring us future happiness, we're putting off the enjoyment of our lives for a day that never arrives? So how can we find peace and joy today wherever we stand? We can cultivate a fundamental understanding that life is not about arriving somewhere, but instead is about being here right now, wherever here might be. When we give up this belief that one day it will all work out, we allow ourselves to appreciate what we have. Does it mean we won't still strive to make it better? Of course not. But we can give up our resistance that nags things are not right and the illusion of, if I could just get this one thing, then I would be happy. When we start to accept life as it is, we can start to make peace with our circumstances and possibly find joy in each moment. And don't worry, with that newfound peace and joy, you won't be giving up on your dreams or aspirations. Far from it. You'll work even more effectively toward the future you'd like to create for yourself. Let's not forget, maybe is always at play. You just listened to the posts titled Understanding Anger and Are You Always One Problem Away from Happiness? Both by Allison Carmen of AllisonCarmen.com. Thank you to Allison. In the first post about anger, I'm glad she mentioned not suppressing it, but also not letting it control our lives. One thing that I never really realized or appreciated until I started meditating at least, is that there's a sort of gap when it comes to our emotional reactions. And what I mean by that is when there's an event or stimulus, there's a tiny little gap between that and our emotional response. So as an example, if you're minding your own business and someone says something hurtful, well, that's an event that took place. Now it might seem like immediately we're upset or angry, maybe sad or frustrated. But really what happened is that the event happened, then we processed it, we heard the words and interpreted the meaning, and only then did the emotions start to happen and boil over. And now the more urgent or life-threatening the event is, the less of a gap there is for processing, but in general, there is ample time there where we can actually decide how we want to react. And this is easier said than done. Like I mentioned briefly, meditation works to become more aware of this gap, and awareness is the big first step, but that's not the only way. Journaling can also help if you're able to do that. And again, the goal here is just to become more aware of these little micro moments where there's opportunity that we might not have seen before to change how we decide to act in that moment. So try to build that awareness. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in tomorrow's show where your optimal life awaits.